sun. This ethereal light that we left will not burn out. Wild to where we run. In the time that we had, it was worth it to know that this is not the end. It's just a part of the puzzle, the piece found its way to. This is not the end. It's just a split in the pathway of fate. Take a new trail. Catch your breath and pour your light. Nowhere left to fall. Find your new way, just inside. Nowhere left to fall. This is not the end. It's just a part of the puzzle, the piece that is way to. This is not the end. It's just a split in the pathway of fate. Take a new trail.
Why intensely sends it to the outside. He can't get there. Kevin King is going to win the Barbizzel FTF Cup Series.
Into the lead. Bud gets wrecked in front of the pack. He saves it. 3-4 wide as they come to the white flag.
Here comes Vargas down on the apron. They are 5 wide. Ian Plash will win it at the line. Is this package? Oh, there goes Jordan Lopez Jr. That's your race leader. Caution flag is out.
Still no one willing to give up as they're going to be dead even off of the first chicane.
Oh, he saves it. What's going to happen here? Here comes the canvas. Oh,
Get your foot there.
He's got it. He's got it. Get there. No.
Canvas is in.
Tonight, the Penguin RC Simulation Grand Am Series returns to FTF.GG. It's the third round of the season and its first endurance race of the campaign. Tonight, we're at iRacing's virtual Homestead Miami Speedway for 90 minutes to race around the road course here in Florida. My name's Justin Prince, alongside the booth tonight, Joey Atterbury, with Zach Johnson producing as we get ready for this mid-October race. So far early on in the season, plenty of strong performances when it comes to our prototypes and even more so with the GT3s. But tonight, we have a little bit of a different layout. Coming over from the light portion of SimCar competition, it's Homestead Miami Speedway with the banking in 3 and 4, which should test some drivers tonight with the speeds here, Joey.
It's a racetrack that I have plenty of personal experience on. It is definitely a roval. It'll be interesting to see how they attack it. Traditionally known as a very, very low grip circuit, you have this really high speed section where you use the NASCAR oval, but throughout the entire interior section, Justin, there is sand that gets blown all over the track. There is not much grip anywhere you look.
Keep in mind, already the third race of the campaign, the previous runs were at Fuji Speedway and Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta for the sprint and feature formats. Blake Reynolds enters tonight as that points leader, keep in mind, by nearly 30 points over his teammate Brandon Lambert for Penguin RC. So far, the consistency, once again, there when it comes to their prototypes. But keep in mind, in the GT3s, it's been a bit of a different season, at least what we've seen at Fuji. Christian Yunwall leads the standings over Ray Kingsbury and Kevin Fanning. However, that size gap still is nearly 30 points as well. Also keep in mind when it comes to the AM side, Daniel Coletta has been looking strong consistently, but Alex Axman also looking very steady. Remember, one of the carries over from Beam NG and their respective racing community with the AM class.
And I think when you look at the points and just the style of racetrack that we're going to see here tonight, we might see a little bit of a shakeup in things. This racetrack is totally different. The previous ones that we've been visiting, much more room to move around and do passes. And you even see in the warm-up here, this interior section, it can get very busy. So if you want to look at the big picture, you got to keep it clean out there for the entire 90-minute race.
Lots of discussions amongst the drivers for tonight. Lots of comparisons in turn to what we expect setup-wise, though, to Spa and Daytona. Originally, the plan was actually to run Daytona. And then, during the Light Series that SimCar ran during the summertime, Joey, they tested out this track. And they enjoyed it so much, they put it on the full season schedule. This is a combination we've seen a couple other leagues do, but SimCar making its debut, per se, with the full-fledged Grand Am series here with this racetrack tonight. You mentioned already the experience with the circuit. What do we expect to see in turn when it comes to a race like this in the darkness?
Well, Grand Am was the last time that I raced this specific racetrack, and you mentioned it earlier. This circuit specifically, the Roval, it's going to be interesting to see how they attack it. It's part oval, part road course, always low grip no matter where you turn. And I think turn 1, 2, and 3 is one of the most challenging on the entire circuit because you come hauling off of this NASCAR turn 4 and dive into an incredibly fast turn 1 where you really use the downforce, but then you have to jump on the brakes into this sweeping turn 2, 3 complex, and it just gets even slower from here. Slow it down even more as you dive down a short little bit of elevation through 4 and 5 and a little bit of squirt of acceleration here, Justin, and then another set of slow corners. This is the area of the racetrack that's a little bit of a stop and go section, but it does provide some passing opportunities if you're confident on the brakes just to be able to slip it underneath the car. And as you see, the speed difference between the prototypes and the GTs, there are some overlapping areas, and one final hairpin here to round it back out onto the oval, accelerated up through the gears.
With them using the banking tonight, expect some high speeds before they run up to turn 1 tonight. Comparative to what we see when it comes to Daytona a bit, when it comes to that side of things, more so towards the bottom here tonight as well at Homestead. Final moments of warm-ups now complete. In turn, tonight's entry list features 21 different drivers. Look to see how they all fare out here tonight, here on FDF.GG. Glad to have you with us for 90 minutes of action, brought to you apart by Penguin RC Simulation. To learn more, go to Penguin RC's website to learn about the sim racing offerings they provide, as well as their RC offerings as well. Just about all set to go, qualifying already complete moments ago. Let's take a look at how they'll start tonight, here from Homestead. Blake Reynolds once again sets the pole tonight. He sets the pole time by 2/10 over Matt Kingsbury. Brandon Lambert starts alongside Paul Mikolajczyk. Mikolajczyk just about 1 second off the pole time. Aaron Beaver and Justin Malloy round out the car class when it comes to the Hyper prototypes. Then it's Kevin Fanning who sets the pole time tonight in the GTs. Then it's Cody Crosgrove alongside John Marshbanks should say. Ray Kingsbury rounds out the top 10 all-pro drivers, Joey.
And then you have your AM pole sitter in the GT3 class. That is Tim Brokaw. Then lined up next to him is Brian Son. Then the rest of the AM class, Josh Ondo in 13th overall, 7th in class. Kevin Bogart going to be lined up next to Josh there. Zachary Korn and Thomas Gom going to share row number 8. Alex Axman, AJ Stevens on row number 9. And then you got Ruby Lehman and Marwan Mofta on row 10.
Then at the very end of the field tonight, Gary Freeman was about to say, I think we both had the same thought of the last car. 666, indeed, tonight. But About to say, what are your keys to win Homestead tonight? 90 minutes on the clock. Still the chance of a caution depending on incident points or time. That was something talked about a bit before tonight. What are your keys?
You got to keep it clean. I mentioned how different of a racetrack this is compared to what we've seen prior in the series so far. So with how tight this infield section is, you got to avoid contact. You got to make friends out there instead of enemies. You never know when something's going to happen. You see how dark these sections can be. So maybe if you're running up on traffic, give a little bit more room. You got to survive all 90 minutes to get those points.
Who do you think's got the best shot tonight in turn here when it comes to Homestead?
Ooh, you're putting me on the spot here. You know, I think if I'm looking in the prototype class, I like Blake Reynolds out front. You know, he's always one of the guys up front with the top level speed. I think if we're going to go back into the GT field, this is a tough one. I'm going to probably go with John Marchbanks back there in the Ferrari. I just like having John out there on the field, and we're going to see what kind of speed he's got tonight.
See how things play out tonight. Currently, the OMDHs making their way onto the banking of the back straightaway. The GT3s you see just currently working their way to the infield currently. Quite happy with the 6 entries here tonight for the prototypes. GT3 entries tonight, up in the double digits. We'll see how they fare out once they make their way off to turn 1. Keep in mind, when it comes to the overall season, the Porsches and the Ferraris have now become basically all but just one entry in their car type. We'll see how those speeds keep up tonight. On that note, we're all set to go. We're glad to have you with us for tonight's action. Penguin RC Simulation Grand Am Series competition in Sim Car. It's Blake Reynolds in the Penguin RC car on the inside. It's Matt Kingsbury making a shuffle up with Coloca Racing to the outside of the prototype class on its front row. Green flag is out. We're underway from Florida. And a clean start for the 6 prototypes. Reynolds gets clear heading to turn 1. Side by side, a poke from Brandon Lambert, trying to keep the nose planted as they zip their way to the road course. All that's while the GT3s take the green flag. They head to Joey.
Kevin Fanning stands on the gas and leads the GT3 field to that green flag down into turn 1. Looks like Cody Crosgrove is going to try to tuck back in line. A very well-mannered start through turns 1, 2, and 3 for this entire GT3 field. Now we're getting a little bit of side-by-side. Ray Kingsbury getting to the inside of John Marchbanks there, trying to sneak away that 3rd place position. And now the race is actually on. Cody Crosgrove right up underneath the rear wing of Kevin Fanning, but decides to think better of it here on the first lap.
Well, staying single file for the most part, outside of a couple drivers towards the mid to back part. Outside of that, things look settled in the early going. Reynolds right now leads up in the prototypes through 3 and 4. NASCAR 3 and 4. And already the gap almost a full second with how he played that opening lap. However, Lambert trying to keep things close. Remember when we started off the season at Fuji, those two went back and forth for that prototype lead.
It'll be, there's a couple cars off there. I think that's Kingsbury and Mikolajczyk.
Oh, in some trouble indeed after the class switch for the 21 machine. Matt Kingsbury overcooks the opening corner, and that drops him towards the back of the class, back to 5th position. Back to the GT3s in turn, and that was going to be something to talk about a little bit. In iRacing races, when official and league competitions have come here, turn 1's been a trouble spot. Turn 2 as well can be a spot with Fanning shuffled out by Crosgrove.
Yeah, Crosgrove got the elbows out a little bit here on lap number 2 for the GT cars, and one of the cars spun around. I believe that's AJ Stevens in his Ferrari, trying to get it pointed back the right direction. And actually, Ray Kingsbury is now sliding up the inside of Kevin Fanning for what is the 2nd place here in GT. Both cars just squirming, wagging the tail, trying to put the power down. Leading up into this next left-hander, Kevin Fanning does have the inside part of the road, but it's all about the acceleration leading out onto the NASCAR oval. And check this out, it's actually Ray Kingsbury that gets the poor run out. John Marchbanks trying to make the run back up into the field.
Kingsbury trying to find a way to the inside, can't. Marshbanks has had stellar speed in parts of the campaign for local racing. Gets the space for the Ferrari, moves up one more spot in the backdrop of Kevin Fanning. But was about to say, expect that throughout the evening. Drivers not afraid to send it deep into that part of the complex in official racing, especially say if it has fenders. Obviously, that could be a trouble spot for some drivers tonight if you overcook the corner. So many drivers we've seen in the leagues especially have demolished their cars in that tire barrier by turn 3.
You carry so much speed through turn 1. You really just try to take advantage of it into 2 and 3 there, and you can't. I've mentioned, I'm going to say it a million times tonight, this is a low grip racetrack. It doesn't matter if it's on the oval or on the infield here. You combine low grip and high speeds, trust me, you're going to have plenty of offs, and you're going to go really far when you do make those mistakes.
Let's take a look at a replay of one of the drivers at AM tonight, AJ Stevens. He runs for a team called iCrash Weekly. Very on the nose.
You know, I'm not going to blame too much on AJ there, though. You saw all of that action in front of him. Wouldn't doubt if he's hard on the brakes, just trying to avoid some of this chaos that was going on in front, and around comes the back of that Ferrari.
Keep in mind when it comes to that team, it's a part of their first runs all season tonight. The team bringing AJ Stevens, Zachary Korn, Thomas Gom, and a driver named Crash Neon into the series.
I love it. I think that's a fantastic name. I think I would be, if I'm a race car driver, I would love to have the name Crash Neon.
A crash up in the wall for the 19 car. That's Josh Ondo in the fence. One of the RD design machines. Teammate to Brokaw as well as Mofta this season. And he's already towing the car.
Just a note on Josh Ondo. I saw the first lap. Still probably trying to warm up the tires, and had a little bit of a loose moment, so I think just struggling with the track conditions as we see the GTP field now stream by the number 5 car. This is Zachary Korn in the AM class, but this means the GTP will be catching the rest of the GT3 field soon.
Really slow it on down, and let's take a look. First involvement of the 19, too wide of the grass, and contact with their teammate.
That definitely tells the story more from what we saw with that 19 car, and that was actually pretty hard contact, not just with that tire barrier, Justin, but the wheel-to-wheel hit, and here's the number 5 car. This is what put Zachary Korn so far back.
Sliding against the curbing. This just happened as we're starting to show the replays. Cody Cosgrove from the class lead misses and blows through turn 1. Cosgrove no longer the class leader. He's back to a class low 4th for his day so far. Fanning retakes the lead after all the mistakes building up across the track.
You got your tallies out, Justin? Because I think that was number 2 there in turn 1 that we've covered so far. So I think that we're going to have to start making remarks on how many cars go off there in that turn 1, 2, 3 complex.
Meanwhile, as that's all gone on, as we take a look at some of the other groupings of cars around the circuit here. See up on the banking, lots of traffic starting to be faced by the back straightaway for the drivers of the prototypes. While Reynolds and Lambert have gained up a decent buffer, Aaron Beaver and company started to reach the back end of some of the GT3s already.
Well, on to the start-finish straightaway here. This is Aaron Beaver being chased by Paul Mikolajczyk right behind him. Actually has Matt Kingsbury directly in tow. This is a nice little trio here, and they're really not very far off of Brandon Lambert there in the second place.
Keep in mind the middle car and all this. We're talking about this a little bit because Mikolajczyk has become a member of what is called Racecraft Academy. Now, for those who may not know, Racecraft is not just a sim racing broadcasting company anymore. Originally started by broadcasters like Joshua Lee. He also has co-ownership with Josh Edmondson, one of the top rally car drivers on the iRacing service. In turn, they expanded with some partnerships to a development program that they've started up on the rally side mainly, but they have started offering coaching with Blake Reynolds for other aspects of the road and oval side. So it's a team looking to add some members, slowly growing, more so to see if they can help the drivers improve. It's not setup based. It's towards driver ability is the focus for that group so far. As more off tracks for the GTs, right in front of some of your prototypes. That's Marchbanks, Cody Cosgrove, Ray Kingsbury, all scrapping for second.
Yeah, you saw Ray Kingsbury slide the nose. Really a nice move, kind of under Cody Cosgrove. And here we go. Here's these GTP cars really having tried to make these decisions through the GT field. And oh, so close to contact. And we actually have our first yellow flag. The number 30 of John Marchbanks gets turned around, unfortunately, but we do have a full course yellow.
Wow, that was very early. I think earlier than most expected here. And apparently, this is from race control. Full course yellow. The calculator has already reached the mark of the first yellow. That's how many incidents they've had.
Well, I mentioned, I'll say it again, it is a low grip racetrack. When you have low grip, you get off tracks, you get incident points, and I think that might be what we're seeing.
So in turn, we're under our first safety car already of the race. The field trying to gather itself up here, so not even 10 minutes in. We're under yellow here on FDF.GG. Everyone catching up to the safety car. Reynolds in the lead for the LMDHs. Lambert and Beaver the top three. Fanning, Kingsbury, Cosgrove the top and pro for GT3. Brokaw, Bogart, and Gom the top three in AM. We'll take a break. More coverage after this. Welcome back to coverage of SimCar, where drivers take the opportunity to take pit stops here. In the early stages, all the lead lap cars for GT3 already fell a lap down, so that doesn't impact the races per se. Paul Mikolajczyk has a black flag after passing entering the pit lane. Outside of that, service being taken by most drivers. Kingsbury went up on the jacks, most of the others taking fuel in the prototypes, while drivers averaged about 21 seconds for those who stayed into the boxes for the GT3s. An interesting thing, though, the AM drivers, most of them did not take service here. In fact, all your top runners in GT3 are AM drivers outside of Kevin Fanning, who did not elect to pit here.
Kind of a split strategy in that GT3 field. You mentioned Kevin Fanning, who was our overall leader at the time, did not come down pit road. I'm seeing the first car that did would be John Marchbanks, and then Ray Kingsbury, Cody Cosgrove, Brian Sohn, Thomas Grom, Gary Freeman, Marwan Mofta. They all came down pit road. So they've got fresh tires, a full tank of fuel, and I mean, you're not going to be able to make it. You're still going to be on that same relative pit stop strategy. It's just going to make your next stop maybe a little bit shorter to be able to short fill and leapfrog some of these guys in front. But it'll be curious. I think it does open more potential doors in the future, but we also don't know how many more yellows we're going to get.
And that's something that's going to be a different number, as we were talking about, compared to this one. I think drivers were a bit surprised at how early it was, but remember, we had at least 3 drivers blow to the corner, and a couple drivers bounce off each other for contact. So when you turn those 1Xs into 4Xs, those add up. Now, the drivers are already being signaled for the GT3 field to go to the right. The prototypes will start to the left here as we get ready for the one-to-go signal this upcoming time by Joey.
See that class split happening here. The GTP cars coming through on that left side. GT cars will be lined up on the right side, and it'll be interesting to see how this really plays out. Typically, how it's done in the real world is there's a full split here. Here at Miami Turn 1, I think the GTP cars, by the time the green flag falls, they'll fully be cleared of the GT3 class, so I don't think there'll be any confusion, any chaos, really, between the two classes.
With the speed we've seen for the prototypes, expect things to clear by quickly here. This is something that we've seen throughout the league, and already the prototypes zipping on by here, so the GT3 is looking like they're going to cycle behind. So just outside of that, look to be just about ready to go. Interestingly enough, you have a new race leader in prototypes. Say hello once again to iRacing's newest employee. FTF Drivers Club competitor Justin Melillo is your leader. He just got hired this past week and a half to the social media and marketing team at iRacing.
Always a big congrats in due for Justin Melillo out there. Always happy to see him getting what he deserves, and got to work with him and a couple others earlier today, and was a fantastic show, but can't wait to see what Homestead here brings with SimCar.
It's going to be an interesting situation here. Melillo was already about a quarter track behind, is worth saying, prior to the caution. Reynolds, Lambert, Beaver, how they line up. Remember, the drivers leading the way in GT3 did not pit. Fanning, Brokaw, Bogart, Axman, Lehman, Korn, all with that distinction. The first out of that pit lane, Ray Kingsbury for that class. So expect things to get a little bit wild here. Possibly. Especially for the head of some of these packs here.
And I just want to make the comment here, they are doing that split class start, and I even see the GT3 field kind of lagging back a little bit, just like how the initial start was done as well, Justin.
And they've already confirmed there is a restart zone. It's the same one they use for stock car racing here at Homestead Miami Speedway. Those blue walls. Melillo in control for the restart. Green flag is out. Back underway. A good launch by Melillo. Field stays single file amongst that pack. A different approach for GT3. They are not up to the wall. They go middle for the restart.
Yeah, kind of more of the shortest distance around, but now they are released with that green flag. Kevin Fanning leads the way. Tim Brokaw right behind him, kind of teammates, if you will, and they're leading both the Pro and the AM class in this GT3 series. Got to look all the way back to Ray Kingsbury, who's currently 7th place. That is the car that is the freshest on those tires.
Not expecting too much of the fall off early going here at Homestead. It is a cool racetrack. But already some side-by-side. Ray Kingsbury trying to make quick work of Zachary Korn. Makes it work on the inside. And another dive and a spin.
That was Zachary Korn getting turned off of the nose of Cody Crosgrove. I think it was just kind of two cars into one spot there going into this first lap on the restart. Unfortunate for Korn.
Already some side-by-side building up in the pack, though. There's a shuffle ahead. Brandon Lambert able to make up second, and Maluo spins in front of the field. Off of the grass goes Reynolds. A scream of no for Maluo as he hits the tire barrier. We stay going.
Opens the door. This is going to be Paul Mikolajczyk. And also Matt Kingsbury sorting it out for what is now the fourth place position. Who's going to be latest on the brakes? It looks like the BMW is going to slide up the inside, but now he slides too far and off the track. Paul Mikolajczyk goes back to fourth.
Everybody going fast on those incident points. A very early start to some of the troubles. Up front, Fanning and Brokaw getting some breathing room. It's worth noting that the top four overall is still featuring, rather the top five overall, 4 AM drivers for the time being. Cody Crosgrove, though, is starting to make up ground, as well as Ray Kingsbury, and quickly this lap.
It's exactly what I was taking a note of as well. You see this Ferrari with the yellow headlights get almost into the back of Alex Axman. Alex is running third place in that GT3 AM class. They are the same class of cars, just a different class based on the driver and the license rating there. But riding on board with Ray Kingsbury, really getting the draft, the toe behind this Porsche. And here in the oval section, it is flat out in these GT3 cars. So put your foot to the floor, ride it around the bottom side of the racetrack like you were mentioning, the shortest distance around. And now it looks like Kingsbury is going to get that position. Alex actually lifts off the gas, says, you know what, you're a little bit faster. I'm going to take some notes behind you.
So Bogart giving some give and take there as part of the Too Fast Racing. That isn't his fight for the point standings, keep in mind. Axman also in that same boat with Cody Crosgrove. You see the up and under attempt now with the Ferrari. He's not as easy to pass here compared to what we're seeing with Crosgrove. Overall race lead, side by side, coming off the banking. Reynolds has recovered to retake the race lead. Lambert settles back in to save.
Excellent pace from Blake Reynolds, and unfortunate for Justin Malillo, like we saw that spun, but actually Reynolds a little bit wide there in the 2-3 complex. Going to be opening the door, just allows Brandon Lambert just to stay with him, really.
Keep in mind, last time out for the series, drivers went to Road Atlanta, as we talked about. Blake Reynolds picked up the win in the sprint, but it was Flynn Lazier who made a start to pick up the win in the feature for this class. Technically, if you consider that mark, SimRC and its drivers that it's represented in the past couple seasons of SimCar, continuing to hold things very strongly in this class.
Always very competitive, and whenever you're out front and really kind of in control of the race, flexing your muscle out there and kind of showing what you're made of. Always nice to see, especially when you're representing teams like that.
But also helping other drivers. After all, a lot of the competitors, including Ray Kingsbury, work with some of the drivers, giving plenty of setups for drivers to work as a base in the BMW for the GT3s. Unfortunately, no one entered with the BMW this season.
And to talk a little bit about those setups, I know that we've got about an hour or so left here in the race. If you're out there on iRacing and sometimes you feel like you just struggle a little bit, those setups, they're so crucial for the speed. You wonder why some of these drivers, they can be seconds faster than you. Trust me, it does come down to the setup. Coaching is great and wonderful, but these setups, that is really where all of the speed is made.
Speaking of speed, here comes some cross-ups. Mikolajczyk and Kingsbury going back and forth. That's a swap now for the fourth position for the time being. And for Matt Kingsbury, he was one of the top drivers previously when it came to the GT3s, electing to switch over to the prototypes after starting off the season with Kuoka Racing, with some solid point tallies, at least at Fuji. but did see his point tally slip back to 103 points in the GT3s. Now it's 2 races down. More troubles. Another spin. Brandon Lambert. That's cost him about 5 seconds.
That was that very, very familiar turn 1, 2, 3 complex that caught out Brandon Lambert, and our leaders are actually coming through this GT3 thick of the field right now. This is as busy as the traffic is going to get, and thankfully they're heading out onto the NASCAR oval now. And uh-oh, this is the 77. This is Paul Mikolajczyk that spun around.
Another collision. He tries to back up in a bit of a dodge from Gary Freeman, but no mandatory repairs, able to keep it off the wall. That's the bright side, just the lockup.
I was mentioning the cars were accelerating out onto the NASCAR section where they have a little bit more room to move around, but unfortunately Paul didn't quite get to that section when he was in the thick of those GT3 cars. We jump back to our leader up here, number 66 of Blake Reynolds. Actually has a little bit of clean air right now, can take a deep breath.
Yeah, that was after a big wave of traffic. It's not so easy though for Beaver, Kingsbury and company with traffic. After all, Lambert just lost another 4 seconds. And drivers continue to have to go side by side with some of it. There's a look now back over to Lambert, in fact. 4 different GT3s to dive against. That's Mofta he passes on by. Mofta switching teams before last race.
Was able to get by Alex Axman as well as Thomas Gom as well. Unfortunately, Alex Axman has had a couple of those little incidents we were noticing. He had restarted up towards the front of the GT3 field. Unfortunately, has slid back a little bit, but now is in that battle with Marwin Mofta in that AM category as well.
Looking back at some of the drivers working with the banking, Alex Axman taking a bit of an entry. Let's take a look at, let's see what happened. Some drivers, including Axman himself. Off to the sand he goes. And that's a way to lose a spot to a driver in his first AM start. And then some.
Oh, he actually just had a huge moment. This is the number 46.
Oh my goodness! Alex Axman, how in the world did he not just destroy Thomas Gom?
This is it. Yeah, I'm happy that you were checking it out as well. This all happened in turn 1 here. So Alex gets this huge hook spin and almost takes out the Ferrari.
Wow! Talk about inches difference. By the way, iCrash Weekly is a YouTube channel. They just got some clips for that channel. Not in the way they expected. Wow!
You know, I think there was contact between the front of the Ferrari and the back, the right rear of this Porsche. I don't know how this wasn't bigger.
Take a look on board. Hello. And that's a code brown and then some. Well, perfect time to talk about Thomas Gom's been doing good, by the way. He's 4th in AM. And as you can tell, he's keeping it clean, and he is in a McLaren. In fact, the only McLaren in the field.
Yeah, I definitely miscalled that one earlier. I just figured I saw the red and yellow of Ferrari colors, but as soon as I saw the flame-broiled whoppers out the back, I knew it was the McLaren.
Yeah, and he's been, by far, the best out of his teammates so far. Crash Neon didn't make the start tonight. But yeah, as mentioned, the team name comes from a small YouTube channel that has already picked up more than 200 videos, because everybody loves to watch people in iRacing crash, don't they?
I mean, yeah, it can provide some humor, you know, maybe not so much when you are the ending recipient, but when you're looking through the videos and you're having a good time, yeah, it is a ton of fun out there.
And unless you're one of the people involved, I'm not going to lie, I've checked those videos and wondering, did they get me in one of these by accident? Did I cause it? Am I about to be embarrassed? Because it does happen to some. more than others.
You just got to mind your P's and Q's out there on the racetrack. We were riding on board with Marwin Mofta in his Porsche, the number 191, chasing down Thomas Gaume. That was that McLaren that had just gotten that very, very near miss with Alex Axman just a couple laps ago. And that McLaren, it's got a really, really good top-end speed. But it's got a little bit of a split personality when it comes to the handling aspect of it all. A little bit of a handful on some of the slower corners.
Keep in mind, Mofta originally started off in the Ferrari before that shuffle to RD design for this rest of the season. Mofta, keep in mind, very strong last campaign in AM, 100 points so far on the season. Did see a small uptick in the last race in the points. Now we've seen Ruby Lyman trying to block things off. One of the two fast racing cars. Gaume has a shot for the run, battling for the podium of AM. Ruby now to the inside.
Saw Gaume really try to set it up, and oh no, there goes the Porsche to the inside. That was almost a spitting image of Alex Axman, and unfortunately the 191 of Mofta, he was hard on the brakes and still ended up getting collected.
Hard contact for the 43 and mandatory repairs. So, 32 gets involved in this one. Might have been a small factor of air, and another spinny. More than a spin hearing for Alex Axman. That had some screams. Here's a look first. You have Ruby, one of the two fast racing cars. Yeah, there was air. Not just that type of air. And this gets even worse because the latter of the type of air comes into play here for Axman.
This is going to be a deja vu spin, hitting almost the exact same place, but watch this.
Oh, wow. And that's a broken axle and then some. Oh, in trouble for Brian Son. He's gone off in the same section just now. And he's now in Narnia.
Let me explain a little bit of what's going on here in turn one, because
hold on. Gaume's crashed in the corner now.
Because I don't think it's going to end, Justin. I really don't. And here comes the GTP cars coming up around Gaume. You know, just got to be careful of what's going on in your rearview mirror. And you approach turn one at your top speed, all right? You have to slow down through turn number one. There's actually a pavement change. You come off the oval, you come onto the infield, and not only that, but the weight transfer as well goes straight onto the nose. From turn one to turn two, you put even more weight on the nose when you come off of the throttle and go onto the brake. So if the car has any sort of loose condition during that high speed and you continue that weight transfer to the front, well, guess what? The rear, it's just going to continue to rotate and around it goes. Couple that with some of these cars like the Porsche where you have a lot of weight in the back end, you just get those massive pendulum moments where they really get loose on you.
So the incident points in turn are building up. Fanning's still leading. Ray Kingsbury has closed up to Gary Freeman with traffic. This is now a battle for second and pro with the traffic going up to the sand trap to be able to move out of the way. That's the way to do it. Cosgrove looks to set up for the pass, though.
Right behind Ray Kingsbury here. These are two Ferraris. See who's got the best traction coming out of the final hairpin here. The number 25 leads the number 18. But it's all going to be about the slipstream, the tow, the draft, whatever you want to call it here as we ride on board with Cosgrove. Let's see, does he go to the outside and take the longer way around, or maybe try to over-under at the end of the NASCAR turn 3-4 oval here? He's trying to time this run. Can he get to the inside here, right up underneath the rear wing, but he's not going to do it this lap.
Still no way to go and poke around here. There is that thought process of, do you save the gas a bit? But at the same time, about half this racetrack is not necessarily what I would call a drafting section to work on the draft outside of the NASCAR oval. in the infield. It's more so sen, more so infield than what you would see if we went to Daytona.
I think,
Oh.
yeah, a little bit of a slip up there from Cosgrove. Thankfully doesn't go too far off track and also doesn't spin it around. But back to your point, Justin, about fuel save. Yeah, I mean, you can always fuel save no matter what racetrack you're at, but you're right. I think the opportunity is definitely limited here at Homestead.
Still no move yet. By the way, Zachary Korn apparently just really made friends with his own teammate again, because more troubles happened for Thomas Gom. He has picked up the recovery since, and now it's AJ Stevens who joins him. Licking the stamp is Thomas Gom, and the stamp goes to the grass, and into the wall goes Stevens.
And heavy damage on the front end of this Ferrari. You see just the entire thing hanging, and now he runs it over. As he comes back out onto the racetrack, he's quickly going to find out he doesn't have any headlights. He's going to have broken steering. That Ferrari going to have to come into pit lane. And Justin, this was just slow speed, trying to put the power down on a low grip racetrack. It just wasn't there.
And now another car has gone off. Is that Gary Freeman? Yes, it is. And the adventures of Gary Freeman continue. And keep in mind, he did really well at Fuji in the feature. Today has been a bit more tricky.
We've seen this racetrack bite a lot of competitors, and still got 55 minutes of racing left. I've been very impressed with the drivers. They haven't been messy. It's really just been them overstepping the limit of what this racetrack is giving them.
And with the amount of grass here on the infield, it's very easy to step out of that limit, you could argue. Good news is Axman is back in the race, by the way. Downside, he's several laps down to the next position. So he needs to have a lot happen to get back on the lead lap here. But outside of that for now, already quickly approaching the halfway mark, Reynolds still holding on to that 4-second gap. Fanning has not lost the lead. In fact, Fanning's 13 seconds up right now over Cosgrove.
Let's talk about that, because remember, Fanning didn't make that pit stop. Brokaw, the leader of our AM GT3 class, also didn't make the pit stop. So it's Cody Cosgrove is the first car that did make the pit stop. And you were remarking over 10 seconds between Cody and our leader in GT3 with Kevin Fanning. So I think that Kevin Fanning is doing the right thing in terms of running away as best as he can. And it'll be curious to see, is that going to be a difference in the fuel stop strategy? 11 seconds is a long time.
Yeah, that's a major question. Keep in mind, the fuel fluctuation for the pit stop cycle was about 22 to 30 seconds in the pit box, depending on the driver. Expecting that to be obviously longer here once we get to that window here, just a few minutes away from the halfway mark. Still falling on board in the midst of some of this traffic. Cosgrove still falling now behind the 43. Lemon back in the race. He's on the same lap cycle currently as Axman, keep in mind.
And this really isn't helping Cosgrove's battle here. Now, Ray Kingsbury is on the same strat as Cody, so I guess Ray could get up there if he passes Cody, go up there and lead the torch on this charge of this type of strategy. However, if they continue to battle amongst themselves, that is not what they want to do in terms of catching the overall leader.
Looks like the 43 in turn, though. Going to move to the side after the prototype zipped on by. And some communication on the radio. Slayman lets him on go. G now moves back in front of Ray Kingsbury. No checkup, though. Also, here in the 24 may be potentially having to pull down soon because of audio issues. The audio issue? Their headset coming and breaking and running out of battery, apparently. It's not going well for the 24.
So, in real racing, we have mechanical failures all the time, whether it be driveline components, corners, hubs, whatever it be. Here in the sim racing world, you have your own slew of problems, whether that be headphones, mechanical failures of the PC, your direct drive equipment, whether it's pedals, but it can happen. You don't think about a mechanical happening on the racetrack or in your basement per se, but trust me, it'll do it.
And keep in mind, about a few updates ago, in fact, in one of the more recent builds, one of the new features that we haven't touched upon too much that drivers have the opportunity for, audio features that allow you to basically sound like you're listening to the car from inside a helmet. Now, most people may not think about that being a big factor, but for some people, it adds to the realism, but even more so. I don't know how you feel about the muffled sound of the car from an actual helmet perspective, or if you have to say the earbuds. At least to me, it's calming compared to what you would hear from the raw engine.
You know, I have yet to experience it. I got to throw the headphones on and try it out, but I'll tell you that any pro-level race car is going to be the loudest thing you'll ever experience. You know, there's zero sound deadening. You know, you got basically some firewall protection. You got some grommets in there, but yeah, you hear everything through earbuds, and even then, through the earbuds, everything is extremely loud inside of those race cars. It's one of the reasons why you rely really on your senses when you drive those race cars and your awareness, because your hearing is pretty much blocked out.
Does it sound like dolphins? Because that's what it sounds like to me.
It's funny you say that. Real quick story. Back when I was, oh no, looks like this is a problem here. That was our race leader, Blake Reynolds, going off, Justin.
Yeah, but keep it straight, though. The gap is down to 3 seconds. It is reducing a bit. Just taking some off tracks. Could have been much worse. You were saying, though?
Back to my ADD real fast. When I was using iRacing training for the Volkswagen TDI Cup way back in the day, you know, you don't get these audio issues that you do now. And so you go in those Volkswagen cars and you climb in it in real life, and let me tell you, they are so quiet on the inside. I wasn't expecting it. The harnesses rattling around, coupled with the rear tires kind of bouncing because it's a front-wheel drive, it reminded me of a seal barking in the back seat.
So what you're telling me is the effect is on point.
Yes, yeah, a different aquatic mammal, if you will.
You're actually the first one that said it's on point. Everyone else looked at me funny. Blake Reynolds, meanwhile, he's now looking a few minutes to the halfway mark. Josh Ondo, by the way, just parked it in the 19 car. He was 5 laps down to the time and pulling out of the race. So far, Reynolds has been keeping things very calm, especially since we've seen the troubles for Lambert. Lambert hasn't been able to recover any time. If anything, Lambert is losing time every lap since those off tracks earlier.
Curious to see how Aaron Beaver is going to be attacking this one. We saw Blake Reynolds have that mistake just a couple laps ago, and you see Beaver is just right there. So he's got the carrot literally right in front of him. It's down under 2 seconds for that overall lead. Does he continue to provide that pressure to our leader, or does he kind of sit back and maybe wait for some of the strategy options to open with the fuel game?
Going to be a major question for some, but I will say Aaron Beaver, one of those who switched over from GT3 to prototype last season, driving UK SR this season, has done very well. Oh, and some tempers flaring. Matt Canesbury is in trouble. He hit the back end of Zachary Korn and crashed in NASCAR 4.
Exactly what happened here, because this was definitely really unfortunate. Usually you don't see too much intermingling between the classes on the oval. I don't know what was said in the drivers meeting, but typically faster class cars stay to the high side, stay to the right side. The GT cars stay to the low side, and that one's tough. I see the GT car wander up the banking, but I don't think he went all the way up there. I'm not sure on this one.
And the communication on the radio from Korn was, I thought you were going to go high side, didn't know where you were going to go. But as you said, he was going up high. That's why the 21 committed down low.
What can really happen is you drive off into these ovals and you look up into your mirror. You don't realize it, but your hands actually follow. That's exactly what happened to Korn as he just drifted up the oval. And unfortunately, Kingsbury saw it as an open door, but it was really just Korn not realizing he was drifting up there. Once he did, he brought it back down, and it was too late.
So that takes Kingsbury out of the equation, and that's a long tow since he had just crossed the start and finish line, I believe. He's already had to tow more than a minute on the racetrack. Speaking of how things are playing out, Beaver is coming. He's reduced the gap to under 2.5 seconds, despite his internet's best efforts. And Beaver, at the end of this long run, has found a lot of pace all of a sudden. In fact, at the stripe last time, it was under 2 minutes, 2 seconds with the traffic.
I think a lot of it's really due to catching that traffic and where you catch the traffic. Through some of these infield sections, if you don't place your car properly on the inside line, you can really be stuck behind GT cars for several corners. You just have to stay patient. And this GT battle. I've been keeping my eye on this one, Justin. This has been Cody Crosgrove, still Ray Kingsbury. They are locked in this one.
You're identical on the pace as of late. In fact, within a tenth last time by their average pace. Still keeping things tight. They do have more traffic of Zachary Korn coming up, though, to deal with the next few moments or so. Again, this is what they've been doing all race, staying close after losing the gap with the strategy. It's been very impressive what Fanning's been able to do with the staying out call, because Fanning was under attack by these same cars right from the jump initially. And since then, with the buffer, Fanning hasn't relinquished any of the buffer time.
You're right. What Kevin Fanning's doing is very impressive, and I think that Crosgrove, he's actually being held up by Ray Kingsbury. Now, to your point, I do think that the pace between these two is near identical, so even if Crosgrove gets around Kingsbury, which he's looking to do right here, looks like Ray's going to simply lift and let by Cody down to the inside. I wonder, can Cody keep it together now and turn some fast, consistent laps, maybe start to close that gap to Fanning just a little bit?
Do have a big queue of cars wanting to get around. Blake Reynolds, he's been reeled in by Aaron Beaver. The gap now for the overall lead down to half a second. Crosgrove tries to run away. Aaron Beaver gets the door slam shot by the Penguin RC GT3 of Crosgrove. That costs him half a second.
Did you see how close that was? I mean, Beaver put his nose down in there, and Crosgrove just barely left enough room. That was incredibly close between the two classes, but you're right, Aaron Beaver took advantage. Blake Reynolds got checked up in 1, 2, and 3 there that previous lap, so the race is on.
Battle separate out a little bit outside of one car for now. Clean space for the next few laps. 1.1 seconds the gap. Just past halfway in the race, by the way. Under 44 minutes to go up on the clock. Reynolds, Beaver, Lambert. Now things are in the top 3. Overall, one car is off. It's Thomas Gom. And that holds up Beaver again.
Just the ebbs and flows of racing. You know, one lap, your competitor is going to have its way through traffic. The next lap, you might have your way through traffic. You just have to be patient through it all. You can't try to take too much when it's not on the table in front of you.
Keep in mind, the AM class, only 2 cars left in the lead lap, as you see Gom in third, despite all some of the troubles this final half of the run. Brokaw and Mofta. Now, here's the thing when it comes to Mofta, he's been dealing with massive front end damage since the contact we've seen from one of these spins earlier. And in turn, keep in mind, we do have a faster pair available for drivers tonight. Some of these drivers going to be really, really wanting that faster pair in a little bit here. We're in the window.
If they haven't used it already out there, we've seen plenty of incidents.
Oh,
and,
here we go.
Yeah, this is the 44. This is our leader coming down, and you mentioned we were just past halfway, so I think this is the fuel window officially open, saying, you know what, I can make it 50% in the race. Let's bring it down, fill it on up.
Brokaw already to the commitment cone as well. So the AM leaders coming in this time by, as well as your GT3 leaders who stayed out before. Thomas Gom somehow makes the windshield wiper turn on, despite the fact iRacing rain isn't here yet. And round goes Ray Kingsbury again.
I think that windshield wiper turns on when you have a lot of dirt and debris on your windshield. It's just kind of one of those automatic things. It's pretty cool, though, with how many cars have been going off. That is totally representative of the track conditions. So, Gom, unfortunately, a lot of mud on the windshield from all the offs.
Yeah, they've really picked up the off tracks, it seems. I mean, there was a quote over the radio from the 24 of Alex Axman: if you aren't upside down, you aren't doing it the right way. Now, if you want good points, you finish upright. If you want to make a highlight reel, you maybe finish upside down. It's up to you which way you want to do it.
Good points versus style points, right?
Yeah. The difference is, one counts for a championship, and one counts for fun internet points. By the way, go ahead.
Well, I want to give a tip of the cap to Tim Brokaw, because we were talking about how good of a job Kevin Fanning was doing. Remember, Kevin and Tim, neither one of them came down and pitted during that yellow flag, and it was Tim Brokaw, the leader of the AM class, that stretched it out over Cody Crosgrove, Ray Kingsbury. So even though we talked about the fantastic job that Kevin Fanning was doing, well, Tim Brokaw was doing the same thing.
Well, they are teammates. So that makes sense with them being on sync so much on that strategy. But Brokaw absolutely has controlled this race. He missed the first round, mind you, but did pick up 50 points from the feature last time out in Road Atlanta. So top 3 last time out in AM. But runs like this could be part of that big recovery back from when you miss a race like that. He, after all, has Daniel Coletta, who missed the race tonight, and Alex Axman, who's missed the Apexes several times tonight.
It's the championships, they're made from your worst days. That's typically, limit the bleeding, if you're not having a good day, bring it home. Bring whatever points you can. And sometimes that's what's going to win you the championship. One, it's all over and done with. And it looks like we've got Justin Malillo on pit road in the number 53.
31 laps is the total after the stop earlier. And it looks like Reynolds coming in as well, electing to take the access road here. So Reynolds makes the stop right at the speed limit. Lots of practice for him when it comes to those pit entries.
And I really like this call because I'm checking out Aaron Beaver. He's stuck in the middle of the GT3 cars right now. So the leaders that came in, they don't deal with this heavy traffic. And oh no, looks like Thomas Gom is pulling off to the side of the road again. This red and yellow McLaren having more adventures. But I don't expect this to be a very good lap from Aaron Beaver, and he's going to have to pit soon. It'll be curious to watch that Delta time difference.
Keep in mind, when it comes to the GT3 pit stop delta, about 30 seconds in the box for Brokaw, as well as for Fanning. We'll see how long the top drivers have to run here for. The 10-minute difference. Expect these pit stops within the final 30 minutes or so from Crosgrove, Kingsbury, and company. John Marshbanks up to the top 3 as a result. And keep in mind, if these two start squabbling, back where Malou is right now is John Marshbanks, who's very quietly been riding a couple seconds back behind all this.
You're right. He is just kind of hanging out, lurking, and if there's any serious mistakes right here, he'll be right in the big picture. You just have to remind yourself, if you're Cody Crosgrove, if you're Ray Kingsbury, you're duking it out right now for the GT overall lead, but the big picture is still chasing down Brokaw and Fanning. They were well up the road. I'm curious to see when they make their stops where they will cycle out.
Of note, Gary Freeman has just towed the car as he broke the suspension on the 666 again. Everybody just wished him hello and goodbye as they passed him on by in the sand trap. So outside of that, Beaver is in the pit lane this time by for his service. Others sit on by in the battle as they continue for some reason to say hi and bye to Gary even though he's in the pit lane.
Well, and Reynolds just slipped by Aaron Beaver. Oh, but Reynolds is off the racetrack here in turn number two. This is going to allow Beaver actually to reclaim what's going to be the lead once Lambert has to do that cycle of pit stops. This was a big-time gift from Blake Reynolds to Aaron Beaver.
So the lead was as high as 5 seconds. Aaron Beaver has chipped it all the way down to take the net lead in the Cadillac. Now he looks to see if he can hold on, though. Reynolds is still in the draft. Lots of use on that hybrid power, trying to make a move towards the entry. Now up to the oval.
Got the number 5 of Zachary Korn right there in front of him in the GT car. Should be able to clear him. Goes to the outside. Maybe a little bit of confusion there, but another thing you're going to have to deal with in the term of Blake Reynolds, you've noticed Aaron Beaver blinking in and out of the screen. Well, Blake Reynolds sees that as well. It's just more confusion to have to deal with to try to make the pass.
You call it confusion, I call it sim racing things. The 97 looking to hold on in his prototype. Brandon Lambert, the only one yet to pit. Lambert's coming in this time by, though. This likely the battle for the net race lead. Beaver losing ground on the entries, though. Reynolds seems eager to pounce. Nowhere to go yet.
Nice run down here into this first big braking zone. Doesn't have anywhere to go, and you see Aaron Beaver continue to blink his way out. Now, I'm going to be completely joking and facetious over here. I always think the sim racer thinks it's a button that they just kind of push over there. I want to be invisible now. Now I come back.
And now lots of traffic. It's the battle for the current lead in GT3. Ray Kingsbury moves aside. Blake Reynolds uses all the apron space. Down below the apron, Cody Cosgrove ducks underneath as he looks for the pit lane. Pit lane is open for the GT3 leaders. Ray Kingsbury keeps going. He's been saving for the past couple laps in the draft.
Curious to see. So Ray Kingsbury stays out another lap as Blake Reynolds continues to hound Aaron Beaver for the overall lead. This is turning into quite some battle here, and as Reynolds just tries to square up, tries to do whatever he can to try to over-under capitalize on these corner exits. He realizes through these twisty bits, he's a little bit faster. He's just got to get there on corner entry to be able to make the move.
So about that patience right now. This is now for the overall lead. Lambert has cycled 20 seconds back of the leader. Pit cycle almost to a close, with only Ray Kingsbury, Brian Son yet to complete their final pit stops of the race. Still no chance yet for the run back from Blake Reynolds. And it's almost a shuffling back to what we've seen between him and Lambert for a bit. He waited a few laps, then took the chance to pounce before.
Sometimes it's about cooling off the tires. Sometimes it's even just cooling off the brain a little bit, Justin. You can get kind of heated in some of the moments, especially if you're dealing with traffic that's going off right in front of you. Sometimes you just need to clear yourself, regroup it, and come up with a new charge at it.
I don't know about you, but I don't like brain freeze, though, when you cool off the brain like what you're talking about.
We're here in Miami. The only brain freeze you might get is from one of those frozen margaritas. You'll be okay.
There's ice cream cones everywhere, after all. But Blake Reynolds loses some ground by the way to Marchbanks as they zipped on by him. Keep in mind, when it comes to Fanning and the GT3 battle, right now, with where he's positioned, he just passed Brian Son. And Ray Kingsbury's in the pit lane. This is the closing of the pit cycle. We'll take a quick step aside when we come back. Final 30 minutes plus. You're watching FTF.GG for coverage of SimCar and Penguin RC Simulation Grand Am Series. Welcome back to SimCar, where Aaron Beaver still fighting hard with Blake Reynolds for the overall race lead. It's been dicey so far. We've seen that with the side-by-side as well, Joey. Both these drivers not afraid to send it alongside traffic, as they send it alongside traffic again right now, in fact, as AJ Stevens leaves the pit lane. These two look to fight. Kevin Fanning, by the way, has cycled to the GT3 lead once more by a sizable margin. He's just up the road from all this, too.
And here we go. Here's Reynolds. He's going to look to driver's left, but this is going to be on the wrong side of the racetrack. This battle has been going on for lap after lap after lap. When we were back at the break, Justin, we caught a moment that was not only 3 wide, but 3 wide through the grass on the outside. It was crazy stuff.
Let's take a look at that. And when we were seeing that, you were saying to yourself, this is not going to work, not going to work, not going to work. Well, it almost worked.
The 111 car of Tim Brokaw, thankfully, he had to have lifted. And then look at this, still side by side between Reynolds and Beaver. And you think it's over here? No, it continues on, and Beaver actually ends up still in the lead at the end of this.
And that's mighty impressive to hold on for that long in the side-by-side. Be able to move forward as the leader after all of that and forcing the mistake from Reynolds. He's not been able, Reynolds has, should say, to get by once more since then. Lots of communication over the radios here as things close up, under 30 minutes on the clock. Traffic management, a major talking point, obviously. Tim Brokaw currently holding control of the M class, by the way. David Mofta still the only ones on the lead lap. Still not done yet for this lead. Here comes some trouble. The 43 hits the grass next to Reynolds and saves it.
You think they've had enough variables being thrown at them? It seems like every single time you go by one of these GT cars, you just have to leave that extra little bit of room. Trust me, the grip on the racetrack, it started low, it's still low, it's going to stay low the entire time. Just accept it already.
Down to the final 8 minutes, 26 laps estimated to go, keep in mind. They have a chance to lap Justin Malillo in the next moment. And here's the frustrating thing for Malillo. He's being held up by Zachary Korn. He's trying to pass Korn 3 times this section. There's the pass right there. Here come the leaders.
Sneak down to the inside of this Ferrari, and Korn has had quite a few moments already. Leaves the door wide open. Nicely done there. Lets these two GTP leaders by, and now you see Justin Malillo see them approach in the mirror as well. He's simply going to pull over, not get in the mix of it.
Being cordial here with how things have fared up battle-wise. Staying separated a little bit for the time being. Keep in mind, Kevin Fanning, that call to stay out, still looking like the smart one. He only lost 2 seconds in the pit cycle.
I think that everything has gone right for Kevin Fanning today. He's got to deal with the McLaren right there in front of him, but you're right, the pit stop cycle worked out. As long as he's got enough fuel to make it to the checkered flag, it seems like the only thing that's going to stop Kevin Fanning will be himself making a mistake.
Does have some lap traffic in front. Of note, Alex Axman just pulled out of the race. He's your 3rd DNF of the night alongside Matt Kingsbury. Why? We mentioned headset issues before. He's had lots of off tracks in this section. What was the cause of this end of the race here? Okay, this is enough.
That one doesn't look near as dramatic as his previous tumble into turn 1. This is the 31. This is AJ Stevens.
Not again.
Happen. Yeah, we've seen that happen quite a few times, haven't we?
And then, where is he going? I thought he was going backwards on the racetrack.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. In iRacing, Justin, it is really tough to spin these cars around with traction control. I think that's all he was trying to do right there.
He's already had to fix the front clip once with the fast repair. Somehow avoided significant damage that time. Back up to the overall lead. Coming up to now 25 minutes to go this time around. 24 estimated laps to go. Reynolds still looking for somewhere, anywhere to pounce. No traffic for the next few minutes to deal with.
And when these cars pitted, there is 1 lap of difference. However, I believe both of them can make it to the end no problem at all. So we can pretty much take the fuel game off of the table. I would say the only thing that could happen there is if there was a mishap on the amount of fuel that was put in the car. But I don't think that's going to be a factor. It's just going to come down to the raw pace between Reynolds versus Beaver.
There's only about a second, maybe 2 seconds difference in their pit lane stop times. About 35 seconds, the average for Beaver. Reynolds, 37 seconds. Most fuel was taken by Lambert in the class. But something has to give here in the midst of this fight, because Reynolds, we've seen how quick he can be when he lines up the draft. He's been quicker in the braking zones, and now he has a chance with Beaver nearly going wide of the corner. Not able to fully pounce on it, though.
He's right here, though, as Beaver just kind of blinks out a little bit, and you wonder how much that's affecting Blake Reynolds' attack. You know, how much do you really want to send it down the inside if Beaver doesn't necessarily see you back there? So I think that Blake Reynolds being very, very patient on the racetrack. However, 25 minutes remaining. We've already done 60 minutes of racing. You're going to have to make a move at some point.
And keep in mind, there was that number generator we talked about for cautions, either by time or by incidents. We haven't had a caution since that 10-minute mark. It's been a while since then. If there's another caution in this race, that can really shuffle things, to say the very least.
No, you didn't see race control after that first yellow. They packed up. They're gone. They said, oh, our job is done here.
I don't think it's done.
No, not by any means. As we see Reynolds really get into the back here of Beaver. No contact being made, but just continues this assault, this pressure. And you're right, it's not done by any means, but I am surprised we haven't seen that second yellow.
Zip by through traffic. And you have to give credit again to what Beaver's been able to do this season. Again, had some struggles learning the car, involved in a fair bit of incidents. Was one of the more active teammates for his respective grouping last season, though. And in turn, that's kind of produced itself into some good speed now, especially here tonight. He's been better coming off the corners, coming through the speed sections, and that seems to be the big difference here, at least for now.
Well, Blake Reynolds literally almost get into the back of the 97 there, so I think that got checked up maybe a little bit going into the corner, and Aaron Beaver was able to capitalize, like you were saying, on the corner exit, be able to put the power down. But I feel like this is where Blake Reynolds is much, much faster than our leader, is through this turn 1, 2, 3 section. And now we've got the 18 of Cody Crossgrove right in front of us. Beaver's going to look down to the inside, but this could be a potential opportunity here for Blake Reynolds.
He looks offset 3 wide. Crossgrove shuffles aside. Beaver looks to use lap traffic as a pick. The traffic moves to the left side. Blake Reynolds tries to move to the right side. Sips by his teammate of Ray Kingsbury. He now has the run to the outside. Defensive line for Beaver. Now Reynolds crosses him up. Steep on the brakes. Reynolds makes it stick. New race leader, Blake Reynolds.
And he's able to put the power down actually really nicely out of that hairpin. Keep Aaron Beaver at an arm's length distance, and I would say at more than an arm's length distance. Extremely good exit from Blake Reynolds. So I think right now all Blake needs to do, put the visor down, turn off the mirrors, and run as fast as you can.
Can Beaver find a way to get back around? Keep in mind, Aaron Beaver was quicker at the tail end of the run before pit stops. That time by Blake Reynolds was quicker by 0.6 of a second.
Beaver really hanging in here, though. He's just kind of shadowing there.
I was about to say, we've seen some off tracks from Reynolds that have cost him some time. Beaver hasn't really had those same off tracks today.
That's actually a really good observation, because remember, it was Blake Reynolds that made that mistake coming out of that pit stop cycle that eliminated, what was it at that point? Almost a 3.5 second gap before they come in.
Exactly. Now keep in mind that interval going to be important to keep an eye on. There is a whiff of draft. How much time can Beaver pick up in the drafting zones? About 0.2 of a second before the braking mark. But there's where Blake Reynolds was quicker, even when lined up behind Beaver. This section right here through the brakes just gained all the time right back, and that might be a huge, big difference maker.
This is our GT leader. That's Kevin Fanning off to driver's left side, staying well out of the way of the two GTP leaders. So GTP not getting caught up. Oh, this is the 32. This is Gom again with more problems here, which looks like the exit of turn 1.
Play the Benny Hill music. Gom nearly rejoins the track in front of the AM leader after spinning out again. And we still keep going here as he's been caught by his teammate AJ Stevens again because of the spin.
See if AJ can put the power down on this Ferrari. This corner right here has been AJ Stevens' nemesis.
Here we go again.
Did it again. I'm sorry, AJ. I did that one to you.
Every time he wants to make a pass, he floors it. It's almost like the SpongeBob scenes learning how to drive a car. Do I floor it? No, don't floor it. Floor it! And he floored it.
And you're out there on the dirty side of the racetrack. I can't express how low grip this place is. You put yourself out there on the dirty part of the racing line, it gets even worse. Unfortunately, AJ Stevens finding it out the hard way tonight.
So Kingsbury and Crossgrove continue to fight for second now. And again, this has stayed very calm for the most part this run. Very even on speed still on this run. They're on the same pit cycle. Keep in mind, Crossgrove lost a bit of time on his pit entry a few laps ago by almost 2 seconds.
Staying right here with this battle, just something I had noticed on timing and scoring a lap ago. Zachary Korn had gotten by Kevin Bogart. The reason why I mentioned that, that's the final step on that AM podium for the GT3 class.
And that's something with how things have played out from third on back. Thomas Gom seemed to be comfortably in that spot. Not anymore with how things have gone. Ray Kingsbury. A bit of pressure. Crossgrove. No place to send it. They do have traffic ahead. Ruby Lyman. And they stay lined up astern as they get ready to deal with the 43 who stays outside and force them to the left of the track.
This is the narrow part of the racetrack there, and Cody Crossgrove had to pinch Ruby down just a little bit. Thankfully, Ruby saw it coming, and now Cody Crossgrove still going to have to attack Ray Kingsbury. It seemed like this battle...
Trouble. Kevin Bogart's been sent off by his teammate. Alex Axman had left the track, rejoined the race. On his outlap, he punts the 69.
Well, I mentioned that Race Control had packed up their bags. Well, they're getting the phone call right now to come back in from the parking lot and discuss this one.
And the night continues to go rough for Axman. He has towed the car after that situation, and now he's back out. Braking zone to the grass, and back to the garage in the parking lot he goes.
That didn't look malicious, though. It's not like Alex came out here just to wreck a car and push him off the racetrack. It just looked like maybe he got off the racetrack a little bit, and this is the 69 of Kevin Bogart now. That was rejoining, so he really didn't even get spun around, but a little bit of a confusing moment for sure. I'm not really sure what's going on with that one.
Meanwhile, for the lead, Aaron Beaver has closed the gap. Had to check up, though. Electing to wait behind Reynolds. He's Staying within a couple tenths. The speeds there at this point of the run on forward, it seems, for Beaver's car once the fuel load gets lighter.
Approaching Thomas Gom in that red and yellow McLaren. Going to move drivers right, be able to get by that flamethrower mobile, but 15 minutes remaining. I'm really surprised that Aaron Beaver's been able to hang with Blake Reynolds, especially after what we saw earlier in the race with Reynolds being able to stretch that lead. So I'm curious if it's going to come down to the drag race, the draft, the slipstream all the way to start finish.
We have seen that before with Fuji, where it was back and forth so many times that day to start off the season. We appear to have something similar brewing here tonight. The exit out of the infield still stronger for the lead car, though. Reynolds still able to pick up a small buffer over Beaver. 14 estimated laps to go in this one.
I made the comment earlier that Blake Reynolds is really strong through this section right here. 1, 2, 3, and you see him use up all the road plus some. And I do feel that Aaron Beaver, I think he's got his setup, his wing probably trimmed out a little bit more. He more hangs on to the car right here, and then through that NASCAR oval sections 3 and 4, that's really where that white 97 starts to make up all of the ground.
It's not been easy to get around Reynolds throughout the season. Keep in mind, a 7-year NASCAR veteran throughout his racing career. Also one-time league champion of the Major Series. He still plays the defense on. Now it's Beaver back the closest he's been in a while. Is this close enough now to pounce? They do have lots of lap traffic next time by to deal with. 3 cars just up the road.
I think this is going to be plenty close enough. I mentioned, look at Beaver's top speed. He's already in the slipstream. Going to look drivers left. He's already out of the gas. Now, I'm a little bit curious on this one. You don't get too many opportunities to make a move.
In front. Lemon's been punted off. Tim Brokaw, along with John Marshbanks up the road. 43 back on the circuit. Blake Reynolds tries to get around Marshbanks now. That holds things back for Aaron Beaver. Now it's Reynolds to the inside of Brokaw. Beaver trying to find a way to send it deep with the brakes. Brokaw keeps the door open. Beaver able to keep it in decent range.
A really smart move from Tim Brokaw. He saw those prototype lights coming. You might as well leave the door open. And Beaver's got a tremendous run down here into the hairpin. Blake Reynolds had a little bit of a slip up that previous lap, but nice and tidy through the final corner here. He is able to put the power down.
Still stays in the line. Brokaw, keep in mind, still holding on to the cushion now. 48 seconds over Mafta. A 1-2 for our design, our D-design, should say. When it comes to their pace this night and AM. Now, depending on what happens in third for AM, I don't even know what to say for who finishes third as more cars go side by side. Ray Canesbury having to move off to the grass nearly. Reynolds and Beaver, wing to wing.
Let me go by Cody Crosgrove. That separates out that GT battle just a little bit. Let's see what kind of exit Aaron Beaver can get here as Blake Reynolds really using up all of the racetrack, not quite getting down to the apex right there, but doesn't seem to affect his drive off of the corner at all. Let's see who's confident on the brakes into this final hairpin one more time. I actually think that Blake Reynolds may be a little bit fast going in. Beaver, tremendous on the exit.
It's within 2 car lanes now. Beaver, the past few laps, has saved on the gas, similar to what we've seen Reynolds do for a little while. Does Beaver save this time? Doesn't look like he wants to. He cuts the bottom. Is he close for the send? No, he backs it up. More lap traffic ahead. Kevin Bogart up the road for Too Fast Racing, and Bogart's off the track again.
Another one of those incidents driving off of the racetrack, but now clean night sky in front of our GTP leaders. It's all going to come down to the raw pace. Make sure you hit your marks here in the darkness at Miami Homestead, not overstep the limit like we've seen nearly every single lap from at least one of the drivers.
Need to be pixel perfect, as the saying goes, with how things have gone here tonight. Coming up to the final 10 minutes in this one. About 10 estimated laps to go in the race as well when they come up to the stripe. Will be Reynolds once more, or will be Aaron Beaver who breaks through for the first time? Thomas Gom, he better move. He's in the middle of turn 1. Gets out just in time from Brian Son.
Yeah, and had a really close moment with Justin Melillo, actually, as we catch our leaders coming down into turn number 1 here. 10 minutes remaining, dealing with more of this GT traffic. Who's going to be able to slip through the best? Who's going to make the mistakes? And who is going to bring home the checkered flag at the end of it all?
Stays within a car length or two once again. Zachary Korn now next up to deal with. Korn quietly is still holding on to third. With how things have fallen apart for Bogart. Down to those two for that respective spot. Korn outside, holds up Reynolds. Beaver closes up a touch. No send yet again. 2 more lap cars this lap. Gom taking the outside. Causes a slide back from Reynolds. Beaver nearly overruns the corner.
You see Reynolds go all the way. Drivers left there really on the apron of the racetrack to get around the GT cars. I think he was just trying to diverge off of the line as much as possible to say, hey, I am here. I want to avoid any sort of contact. Cross, start, finish one more time. And once again, that Beaver car, it just reels them in on the top end.
Heard the Zachary Korn just pit from third, Joey. He was on a different cycle by 10 laps. And the 5 has had to give up the spot.
Oh, is this is Paul Mikolajczyk here in the 77. Just had a little spin coming out of the final hairpin. Curious to see if this was any GT traffic involved or if this was just a harmless getting on the gas a little bit too hard.
Now that causes an interesting question here. As you take a look back at the overall leader, does that impact how things go for Brokaw and for Fanning? They're at 26 laps on the stint right now.
I don't think so. I really don't. I think that Fanning came in past halfway. Now, granted, we did have the yellow, but here comes Beaver, overall race lead. He's going to take a look down to the inside of Reynolds here in turn 1, Justin.
Side by side between the prototypes, inside for the 97. Reynolds now tries to hold the outside. Lap traffic ahead. Down to 8 minutes to go. Reynolds stays on the inside now for the turn 3, part of the leg of the infield. Back to turn 4. Beaver takes inside of the left side of the racetrack. Aaron Beaver finds its way ahead. He's up to the lead. And now here comes the traffic. Freeman and Stevens up the road. Check up for Beaver off the back bumper of this 666. Here comes Blake Reynolds. He sent it deep last time they fought in this section. Will it be here this time? No. Too far back.
Oh, but Beaver overruns the corner. He just gives the lead right back to Blake Reynolds. So almost like Blake gave the lead to Beaver at the end of those pit stop cycles. Well, this time it was Aaron Beaver, that white 97, just overcharging the brake zone, hands the lead right back here to Blake.
Beaver trying to recharge, trying to find a way to group back up to start lap 70. Staying within 0.3 of a second, Beaver looks to regroup here. 7 minutes to go, down to 6 estimated laps to go on the tally. We do have some clean track for the time being, but Beaver continues to cook the corners.
Gotta regroup yourself when you make those little mistakes. Sometimes you just kind of find yourself falling down the hill a little bit. Gotta realize you haven't fallen off the cliff. Just take a deep breath out there and regroup it. You're still only about 3/4 of a second back. Plenty of distance to use that toe, especially considering you know your top end is better.
And Beaver has been strong in the midst of the draft in the later stages, as we've talked about already tonight. He's now within 6-7 tenths, though. It's going to take a while to group back up with this distance. Tim Brokaw is in the pit lane in the AM class. Tim Brokaw could not make it past 28 laps, Joey.
Well, this means that Kevin Fanning is in serious danger. He's got 20 seconds over Cody Crosgrove, but I think 20 seconds is going to be evaporated if he has to come down pit lane. That's going to be gone.
Brokaw elected to top off. Fanning not having to come down currently. Fanning, keep in mind, 31 seconds of gas in the tank. So we'll see how this all goes. Brokaw had to go for a splash and dash of 4 seconds. Back up to the overall lead. Coming up to 5 minutes to go. 5 estimated laps to go at the stripe now. Beaver nearly spins the car out. He hit the curbing, get around the 43. And Beaver needs to go. He's out of drafting distance.
Yeah, but actually Blake Reynolds was the one that made the mistake out of that final hairpin. Not too big of a mistake, but probably not optimal. Holding that gap at right about 1.5, 1.6 seconds, as you see right there on the ticker. So not really providing that slipstream to Aaron Beaver, doing exactly what he needs to. And Aaron Beaver, I still think that he's got the pace to come up here and catch our leader. 4.5 minutes remaining at Homestead.
And with traffic still to deal with, again, Zachary Korn. There is a chance, and Korn just parked it on Reynolds' front nose. There goes 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Back inside, half a second Beaver as a result of the help of lap traffic.
Just like that, Aaron Beaver thought the race was slipping away, but now it is right back in touch. Now is the moment to strike. You know you've got a fast car. You've made a little bit of a mistake when you got by Blake Reynolds earlier. Time to assault another charge.
Looks like with the way things are playing out, likely going to be the race to the end. That second caution not triggered. Running out of time here with 3 laps expected to go here. Beaver has a good charge. Reynolds stays painted against the white line. Beaver tries to shortcut the bottom of turn 4. Does he risk it on the inside? He thought about it. Backs it up instead.
You're right, he showed the nose in turn number 1. Now we'll see if Blake Reynolds can keep it nice and tidy. Just hit your marks, but I see more GT3 traffic right in front here. They're going to be catching this car right where they don't want to, in that brake zone.
Can Reynolds get by quickly? He's had some troubles at times to get around Marshbanks. Now he has to get around him one more time. The 30 car looks now to the outside, out of the corner. Reynolds times it up. Beaver tries to pick up, dropped off both of them. Does Beaver set it inside? Lap traffic now to the last hairpin of the lap. Bogart moves outside. Out of the way of both cars, not a factor in that send. Contact behind them as Marshbanks hits the door. But the battle is on. Kevin Fanning has had to come down and pit with 31 laps on his stint. Cody Crosgrove now has a chance to take the lead as Fanning has to splash and dash.
I am really surprised that Fanning misplayed that pit stop strategy as bad as this. I mean, this is multiple laps that you're not going to be able to make it to the end here. That's a big time mistake.
And in turn, Fanning has dropped all the way back to 7th after having a big advantage, and Beaver's off. Beaver, who is closing up all this run, back and forth with Reynolds. A mistake through 2 and 3 has cost him a chance at the win with 2 minutes to go.
We've seen mistakes out of all of these cars, though. It's not over yet. I know that we've got under 2 minutes. It's up over 3 seconds. It might not be as close as what it once was, but trust me, Reynolds still has to deal with a lot of variables.
The gap 3 seconds right now. Still some traffic to deal with. There go 2 cars. Crosgrove now the overall leader for GT3 and for the pro side. He was able to distance himself over Ray Kingsbury 2.4 seconds. Reynolds makes his way to the banking, expecting one more lap with 90 seconds on the clock. Barney withholding the white, so we have 2 more laps.
I went back and looked at that incident, Justin. There was no contact whatsoever. I have been making the comment that Aaron Beaver, I think he's running a lower downforce setup, and Reynolds has been faster in 1, 2, and 3. Well, that's exactly where the mistake happened out of Aaron Beaver, was in that turn 3 section. It just came out around on him from charging in too hard.
But in turn, can Reynolds minimize any troubles here? He only has to hold on for a lap and a half, 50 seconds on the clock, as he looks to try and win the first endurance round of the season and continue to build what's been a strong points tally to his campaign. He looks to extend the gap to more than 30, 40 points. Beaver not closing up this lap outside of maybe a 10th as the white flag gets ready to wave this time by. Final time around coming up here from Homestead Miami Speedway. Barney waves the white. Final time from Florida.
Dive it off into turn number 1. It is all Blake Reynolds' race to lose. We've seen all of the drivers drive it off the racetrack at one point or another, and really it's the 66 now. It's all in his hands.
One more lap car, maybe two to deal with. That was the first of those. Justin Malillo, 2 laps down tonight. Still able to finish top 5 out of 6 entries. And this race played out a lot differently than I think we expected, especially with GT3. Fanning looked to be in the bag with the strategy. He just needed the race to be 3 laps shorter, if not a second caution.
It's a huge mistake on that strategy call in the GT3 class, and we'll talk more about it later because our leader, he's just going up through the gears for the final time.
Reynolds now hits the top of the banking this time by. He looks to celebrate. Out of turn 4, Blake Reynolds takes the checker flag and wins the feature race and allows Justin Malillo the opportunity to go one more lap. Reynolds, regardless, picks up the endurance win. Through 3 and 4, Cody Cosgrove tries to make it a Penguin RC 2-3 in terms of the class wins today. He gets that job done. Cosgrove gets the win in pro.
No, and also credit to Ray Kingsbury, who's going to come across the line in second in that GT3 class. Was able to capitalize on that strategy. And then we got Tim Brokaw back here coming through the final hairpin. This is your GT3 AM class leader. And even though he did have to come in for that second time near the end of this race, it really foiled Kevin Fanning's strategy. Well, Tim Brokaw was far enough ahead of the rest of the AM cars. He is still going to win this AM class in GT3 despite the second stop. Tim Brokaw, your winner and 5th overall in GT3.
He takes the checker flag and closes out the race and picks up the win here in this endurance round. Mr. Consistency does it again in the 111. Most of the cars have finished, just waiting on one driver who's run out of gas to finish. Expecting time to run out of the next 20 seconds. This is Ruby Lehman, the only reason the checker hasn't fully displayed in session. And that will change the next 10 seconds regardless, but what a night, to say the very least. A very wild race at times. But in the end, Reynolds did Reynolds things, although the script not the way people expected as he looks to celebrate. Oh, he nearly wrecked the 43 in the burnout as the clock runs out of time.
I was going to let him do his little moment here, but this is my favorite part. This is a well-deserved donut right here.
A lot of fighting tonight with him, with Lambert, with Beaver. Let's take a look at the unofficial results here tonight. As Reynolds picks up the win here in the first endurance round of the season. Reynolds over Beaver, Lambert, Mikolajczyk, and Malillo. Your top 5 overall end of the prototypes. The only our prototype in the field tonight, Matt Kingsbury teeing out. Cody Cosgrove wins in GT3 Pro over Ray Kingsbury, Kevin Fanning, John Marchbanks, and Tim Brokaw wins the AM class, Joey.
Then we have Brian Son. Marwin Mofta is going to be at your second place in that GT3 AM. Kevin Bogart is going to be rounding out the podium there. Then we have Zachary Korn with an eventful night. AJ Stevens here in 15th. Thomas Gom, Ruby Lehman, Gary Freeman, Alex Axman, and then Matt Kingsbury way back here in 20th. And unfortunately, Josh Ondo was the 21st car that did take place in tonight's race.
Let's look top to bottom at the unofficial running order here tonight, here from Homestead Miami Speedway in SimCar. With that being said, we'll take the chance to talk with your top runners here tonight. First things first, Blake Reynolds. He's already saying hello with Paul Mikolajczyk to make it a 1-4 in prototype. Blake Reynolds standing by with Joey Atterbury.
Well, Blake, congratulations on tonight's race win. Holy smokes, that was some battle between you and Aaron Beaver throughout the entire night.
Oh yeah, it was good stuff. Yeah, I mean this combo is unexpectedly fun. I mean, it's just like Daytona Road Course, but you feel like you're booking it around here, man. I mean, we're going 190 plus into turn 1. I'm not even getting off the full throttle until after the curve finishes for turn 1. I mean, that's how crazy this combo is. Just love these GTP cars. It's fun to battle with Aaron. It appeared that he had way less drag than me. He was beating me at least 3/10 from the exit of the hairpin all the way to the start-finish line. I think I told y'all earlier I was running a spa setup. There's not exactly a Homestead setup you could just find for these cars. So I was running a spa setup, and I was kind of wondering what Aaron was going to bring because I didn't give him a setup. I usually gave everyone a GTP class a setup for the race. So he had his own setup, and it looked a little bit better. I was definitely better in the infield, though.
That's what I saw as well. He definitely had you on the top end. From the data I saw, by probably about 6 or 7 miles an hour when it came into turn number 1. But then you really had the advantage, through 1, 2, 3, and 4. But I really think that this race came down to the mistakes. And you made a big time mistake at the end of that pit stop cycle to give Aaron Beaver back a chance. What was that all about?
Yeah, it's just it's really hard around here. There's no lights in the infield, and these GTP, especially the Cadillac, you see how thin those little lights are. They aren't exactly the best. So when you're trying to put all the lap time you can, and this car is an animal. The tires were kind of wearing, like they'd overheat and then cool down, like the awkward straightaway lengths for that to happen. It was just an interesting combo, and it just led to a lot of mistakes. I kept getting on the grass in some of the braking zones because I couldn't really see where the curb ended or where the grass started. My headlights, they didn't really track out that far, so that's kind of where that happened. And then on the pit exit, the cold tires, I couldn't fire them up. And then Aaron, I don't know what he did out of the pits, but he had way better tires than I did in that outlap, and then I went off in the grass right when he exited the pits. I know that.
Before I let you go out here, you had a heck of a battle with Aaron Beaver. You had 90 minutes of racing at Miami Homestead. What else are you looking forward to at the end, or I should say throughout the rest of the season?
Well, next race is coming up, Algarve. Or no, not Algarve. That's the Portimao track. Aragon. Aragon is our next race, and that is a new track to iRacing, one I had never heard of until it got added, and I am so looking forward to that place. The first time I drove it, I knew I'd love that place. It's a lot of fun. We're using the layout with I believe with the long straightaway and then the round last corner, not with the hairpin. So we'll be flying around here in the GTP cars. It should be a good time. It'll be hot and slick in that Spain sun. I'm looking forward to that. And then next endurance race is Le Mans, obviously. A classic. Or no, sorry, not Le Mans. What am I talking about? It's Montreal. Another great combo. I've raced Xfinity cars. I can't tell you how many times, but I'm looking forward to racing GT cars for the first time.
Well, Blake, congratulations on tonight's race win.
Yep, thank you.
That was Blake Reynolds, driver of the number 66, Justin.
So he picks up the prototype victory here tonight in this one. Tonight, the win, on the other hand, going the way of GT3 as that was...
He moved.
As Cody Crossgrove gets the job done tonight. Cody, it was an interesting play at the end with the strategy. Kevin Fanning with the top off. What was that reaction like when you noticed Fanning couldn't make it on gas 5 laps short?
Well, when me and Ray were going racing down to the last laps there, we saw Kevin's teammate pit. So we were wondering, like, oh no, do they not have enough to get to the end? So me and Ray just kept pushing, kept our head down. And as soon as I saw Kevin pit, I was just like, perfect. Our strategy worked, and then we just kept going, and we got the Penguin cars on 1-2.
Indeed, and as well, 2 of the 3 classes go in your team's direction tonight. How would you describe that battling, per se, between you and Ray? Because you two seem to be very even on pace until that end of the pit window.
To be honest, I think I was a little bit faster than Ray, but every time I got in front of Ray, I would make mistakes, and I would slow us down. So I just said to Ray, like, just get in front of me and I could try to follow you. And then he ended up making a mistake, and I just put my head down and I just did my laps, and I hoped for the best and pulled it off.
So as already talked about the next date, Aragon, when it comes to the schedule, when it comes to the next time, of course, we're seeing SimCar action on FTF.GG. It's Circuit de Villeneuve in 90 minutes in Montreal. Your thoughts on the next 3 races? Spain, Japan, Canada. Cody,
Say, what's that? Sorry, you cut out.
your thoughts on the next 3 races on the schedule?
I like Aragon, like our next race. I'm not too thrilled about the Suzuka one, but yeah, the next 2. Like, I like the Aragon. Sorry, I'm all screwed up here. I like Aragon, but I'm not too thrilled about the next 2 after that.
Well, either way, anyone want to give a shout out to real quickly here?
Yeah, I like to shout out to Penguin RC, all those guys. They help out a lot with me and racing and whatnot. And I'd like to thank FTF for putting on the show. You guys put on an awesome show.
Congratulations once again on the GT3 victory tonight, Cody.
Thank you, guys.
Cody Crosgrove gets the job done tonight in his respective class, GT3 Pro. The AM class went to Tim Brokaw. He had an advantage big enough, despite having to top off, to still win that class. He now joins us here in the broadcast booth. Quickly, Tim, first of all, what was the team reaction when you and your pro counterpart, Kevin Fanning, realized we can't make it on gas?
Sinking dread, mostly. We actually realized about midway when we had to make our first pit stop. The math didn't seem like it was going to work in our favor. Early in the race, we were both of the mindset that the numbers would work for a single stop. We could do the whole race in one stop, and we were wrong. So, yeah, it was a bummer for Kevin, but I dipped in first to kind of get an idea because I had less to lose than he did, to figure out what the timing was gonna be like, how long I'd be in there, and it was pretty quick. I didn't actually even lose a spot, I don't think, but Cody and Ray were only 20 seconds behind him, so we knew it was looking bleak for his win there, unfortunately.
Well, on the bright side, you still won the M class today. So you and Marlon Mofta, team 1-2 for the M class today. Bogart getting that 3rd podium spot here. How would you describe the night from your perspective with the traffic as you and Mofta were on a lap on your own?
I was hoping actually to run more closely with Mofta, but I think he ran into trouble early and set him a little back. It's funny you say that because I didn't really know where he was. I assumed when I went in for that splash and dash that he didn't need. He was going to take the M win tonight, and I thought to myself, if that's the outcome, I'm okay with it. Teammate. So, yeah, I think we were all fairly happy with the car for sure. Kevin did a lot of work putting the setup together for us, and we all made our own tweaks to our own likings and everything. But I think, it all goes. A lot of our performance tonight, I think, has to go credit to Mr. Kevin.
In turn, the next few rounds in the month of November, Spain, Japan, Canada. So Aragon, Suzuka, Circuit de Villeneuve. Your thoughts on the next 3 stretch for your respective team?
I've never run Aragon, so that's going to be some time to do some homework. So I've got 2 in a row. I don't know if I can extend that, but I'm going to try. So we'll do our best. And the goal is to have fun, and we always manage to do that. So that's the best part.
Any shout outs you like to give for your team tonight?
All my teams and SimCar and Penguin RC, Too Fast Racing, all our other series sponsors, and especially our pro driver Kevin Fanning for all of his hard work and helping educate us on being better drivers.
Well, congratulations once again, Tim. You win the M class here tonight.
Thank you.
Tim Brokaw gets the M win. Like, thank you, Cody Crossgrove, Blake Reynolds for taking the time to speak with us during post-race coverage here on FDF.GG. Real quickly, Joey, your thoughts on what we've seen here tonight from Homestead after we've seen plenty of intense action, but in the end, strategy big in GT3 and capitalizing, it seemed, on minimizing mistakes in the prototype. What was your thought?
I think it was a little bit of what I thought we were going to see here. This racetrack was so different than what the drivers have seen previously in the season, and it proved to be a giant curveball. It proved to be a street fight here in Miami. Lots of mistakes were made, and you made the comment that the strategy got blown wide open there in the GT3 class. But looking at that future schedule, everybody keeps talking about Aragon, and let me tell you, if you're running the outer loop there, you can have speeds in upwards of 200 miles an hour. So if you think things were fast-paced here at Miami, wait until you get to Motorland Aragon.
See how it all plays out for the rest of the campaign for SimCar. Again, the next time FTF.GG has action of SimCar is currently for Thursday, November the 30th in Montreal for the second endurance round of the campaign. You can see that once again on the 30th of November, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the start time there. But coming up on FTF.GG in the next few days, FTF Cup Series action from Homestead on Saturday. Then on Monday, it's Autobahn. More action as well coming up around the corner. Be sure to keep an eye on social media from then on out. In turn, it's time to say goodbye. For our producer, Zach Johnson, for Joey Atterbury, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your evening. You've been watching SimCar and the Penguin RC Simulation Grand Am Series from Homestead, Miami Speedway.